Coming into this season, many including myself had questioned how good the Bulls were going to be, and this came after last season where the Bulls had just proved a lot of doubters wrong. People believed adding DeMar DeRozan to the mix wouldn't really move the needle much for a team desperately trying to add talent so that they can keep Zach LaVine and sign him to an extension. By the All-Star break, even the most optimistic Bulls fans' expectations were blown away, and the Bulls went 38-21 and had the best record in the East over teams like the Milwaukee Bucks and the Boston Celtics. Through this time, DeMar to some belonged in the MVP conversation, even if everyone knew that ultimately he wasn't going to win it. However, post All-Star break didn't treat the Bulls all too well. They went 8-15 and went all the way down to the 6th seed where they faced the Bucks in the first round, and they never really stood a chance, losing in 5 games. However, some things transpired during the second half of last season, including injuries, and this is something that has continued for the Bulls coming into this season, which has made it difficult for them to capitalize on the success of the first half of last season. The Bulls are currently the 10th seed with a 19-22 record, and with the main core not seeing eye to eye recently with the franchise, the Bulls just not playing great as a team, and overall major problems with the roster in general, this has led me to believe that the Bulls should seriously consider blowing this team up. Yo, what's up guys? My name is Alex, and before we start, if you do end up enjoying this video, make sure you guys like and sub. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subs by the end of the year, so it would mean a lot. Anyways, let's get started. So to discuss injuries, Lonzo Ball has been out all season so far due to a surgery to his knee, and his injury has been way worse than expected. It was so bad that Lonzo couldn't even do day-to-day tasks like walking upstairs. This loss has been major for the Bulls because not only does he bring great spacing with his improved jump shot over the years and his up-tempo game that complements LaVine and others very well, his defense was so good last season that if he stayed healthy, he would have had a shot at an all-defensive team selection, and his defense is so important because of the way the Bulls use Vucevic in drop coverages in the pick and roll. Lonzo's ability to stay attached to the defender allows Vucevic to get away with playing like that. Outside of Alex Caruso, the Bulls' depth at the guard position is pretty weak, especially at the point of attack. Coby White isn't too great, but I like Ayo Dosunmu, and Goran Dragic has, I guess, been fine. However, as lead guards to a team that made moves to be good, I don't think this is doing them any favors because none of these guys can bring the same amount of impact that Lonzo does, and based on how severe Lonzo's injury is, I don't think he'll be back this season. Even the Bulls' wing depth is suspect. Outside of DeRozan, there isn't much to be desired. Patrick Williams hasn't really made the jump many believe he could make on the offensive end, but he is still very solid on the defensive side of the ball. However, the rest of the wing minutes goes to Javonte Green and Derrick Jones Jr., and even if you're high on these guys as players, there is no arguing that they will just not be ready or good enough to match up against other great wings in the East like Giannis, Tatum, or Kevin Durant. Despite the lack of guard and wing depth, I still don't think this is the Bulls' biggest problem. To me, their biggest problem is just their main core and what it took to create it, and ultimately why they decided to make those moves in the first place. Nikola Vucevic is not the same player he was for the Magic, and even if he was, I don't think he would be good enough to change the dynamic of this team, and this is something the Bulls were hoping for since they sent a lot to Orlando to even get him. This is also a big problem and a big reason why the Bulls honestly can't make a move to potentially improve the roster. They traded away Wendell Carter Jr., which is a guy who in my opinion right now is better than Vucevic, and they also gave up 2 first-round picks. One came from 2021, which turned into Franz Wagner, who is averaging an efficient 20 points per game, and also a pick in 2023, which the Magic could also get if it falls out of the top 4, which I think will ultimately happen. Not only can this trade be considered one of the worst trades in the past 5 years, but this trade has severely set the Bulls back in terms of long-term success. The Bulls severely lack young talent on this roster outside of Ayo Dosunmu and Patrick Williams, and being able to have Franz and Wendell, who are 21 and 23 years old respectively, not only could help them in that department, but this would have helped them have a higher ceiling as a team because of all the potential those guys have. This would probably mean that Vucevic and maybe even DeMar DeRozan wouldn't be on this team anymore, but I could see the Bulls actually playing maybe a bit better, and even if you don't think so, they would still be around the same record currently, and the Bulls would still be able to draft more young guys and young talented players onto that young core that they already have. However, the Bulls front office decided to bring Vucevic on board alongside LaVine and DeMar DeRozan, who have both been playing really well this season, but with how great the East is with teams like the Celtics, Bucks, Nets, 76ers, and the Cavs, it is just unrealistic to believe in a team led by DeRozan, who is only getting older, to make any substantial noise when it comes to playoff time, especially against those teams. LaVine should be the guy the team leans on, but in my opinion, he just isn't good enough yet, and I'm not really quite sure if he will ever be that good. Even if the Bulls make it to the playoffs as a 7th seed, there's just no way in my mind that I can see them making it past the first round, unless the team that they face was severely undermanned. If the Bulls made moves to be a threat in the East, they did not really do a great job, and while at the time, I thought the Bulls would be a surprising team last season, which they were before the injuries, I did not like the ceiling of this team in the long term because of the personnel like DeRozan and Vucevic and how they just are going to keep getting older and just how much they had to give up to even get that core in general. Even in the short term, the Bulls ceiling when healthy would have been a second round exit. So that begs the question, what was the point in constructing the team the way it is now if it wouldn't put you in a position to win a championship, and it meant that you would have to sacrifice your future and ability to retool the roster or rebuild quickly if things went south? To me, this is the biggest problem for the Bulls. They are stuck being too good to tank but not good enough to compete, and not having enough great assets to significantly move the needle to a top team in the East, which has put them in NBA purgatory. And it's hard to get out of purgatory unless you completely blow it up and start over, which I think is inevitable at this point. Well, those are my thoughts on the Bulls right now, so let me know down in the comments what y'all think. If you enjoyed, make sure you guys like and sub. Again, I'm trying to get to 1,000 subs by the end of the year, so I'd really appreciate it. Check out all my links in the description. You can check out all my socials, and you can check out this video somewhere on the screen where me and my friends do an all-time fantasy draft. Anyway, I'll see you on the next one. Peace!